All right, we are back today with the Game Dev Show. I've got Yorai and Jason here with me today. I think Salim and Andrew may drop by later, and who knows if we'll have some other surprise guests. Yeah, lots of interesting things to talk about and a really cool meetup going on afterwards. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you hang around till the end. We're going to do the giveaway in the meetup. Actually set up a little puzzle race thing for you that whoever's fastest to get through will win a free 1-year license to Rider, and we might have some other stuff to give away as well. So welcome Yorai and Jason. Thanks for both being here today, and hello.
Hi.
Hey, Jason.
All right. So I guess let's just get started with, first I want to say, if anybody's got questions that you want to ask, feel free to drop them down in the chat. We'll pop some of them up throughout this time. Also, I wanted to just really quickly, before we dive into all the other things, make sure that I also said thank you to everybody who came to the conference, who was attending and joining us there live. It was a lot of fun. Also, all of the speakers and the sponsors. Without the speakers, obviously, none of it would have happened, and the sponsors just made the event awesome. So I wanted to say thank you to everybody who came out there, including the two of you. Oh, look at that. See, now I can just point in both directions easily, including both of you who are both there kind of hanging out and talking to people kind of constantly. And Yora, you mentioned that you were so busy talking to people that you didn't really even get to see most of the sessions yet.
Yeah, so I had work during time that most of the sessions were taking place. And as soon as I got in, I would have like only getting to see the 20 minutes of like one of the presentations a day. But I would get to talk to everybody after. There was one day where I did get to join in early, and I got to see some, and I even participated in one. But after that, it was mostly talking to the other people, and that was great. I am looking forward to a weekend where I can just go through everything that was on the talks in the log after.
Yeah, I learned a lot from some of those talks. I was surprised at how much stuff I still don't know. I don't know, Jason, what did you do? Did you watch most of the sessions, or were you mostly in the talk part, or what did you do?
I think I saw about 4 of them live and popped a few questions in, but most of them I just downloaded because you can download the high quality version of the talk, and I was just sort of, I'll be honest, I was watching those at triple speed on my computer instead, because that's what I'm used to watching. To me, watching a live stream feels very slow. So, yeah, I did get through about half of them now at this stage, but like Yorai said, they're there. I just have to get around to watching all of them.
And Jim said he had fun learning and talking with you at the mixers. So it was I think a lot of people did. I noticed like you had a whole ton of people kind of hanging out surrounding you. So I don't know if you saw it, Yorai, but it put together a little space for Jason in there, a little corner for him with a throne.
Oh yeah, I've seen you talk about that even before you did it. So I was already like hyped to see it happening.
Yeah, it was really cool. I should run over there and show everybody. Here, I'll pop this up in a corner window so we can talk while I run over and show people your special area. I just had a lot of fun with this thing and just talking to a ton of people. It looks like there's already some people here from the other event. Yeah, it's a little Jason story area. Oh, and there's Yorai right there. Oh, he's got his camera on too. Doubling up. I got the little boxes here so everybody can go subscribe to Jason's coffee page. All right, so I guess this week I mostly just wanted to talk about stuff. I wanted to talk about some of the topics that came up there, and I wanted to see if we had lots of questions, and then also, of course, just bring everybody into this open meetup. So after the show, or in about an hour and a half or so, we're going to open up the meetup so you can hop in and come in and join everybody, talk, have some voice chat and some interesting conversation. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'll open it up, and it's going to be totally free for everybody that wants to join in. So for everybody who couldn't get into the guild one because it was outside their price range or time or whatever, now's another chance to kind of jump in and say hi to people and meet a bunch of people. Not just like talking to one of us, but like there's a lot of people in there that are really, really interesting, and it's good to have lots of conversations with the people in there. So I definitely recommend that you hang out for that. I totally forgot what I was going to say next. So Anybody got anything they wanted to
I
jump
think
on?
Paul made a good point, which was to say that the thing that I think is most valuable for a lot of people was, I'll be honest, a lot of us were just ranting because you had that sort of sense of camaraderie, fellow people who've worked in the trenches, as they say, talking about the problems that you had. And so I imagine a lot of people that, like, even myself, back when I was in college, I would have liked to hear a bunch of people who've been doing this for 10, 15 years just complain, because you get to hear the real problems and the real situations. And yeah, there was a lot of that. So I think that's what a lot of people got out of it, was hearing us just talk shop for, hours on end.
Yeah, there was a lot of people asking questions and getting concrete answers as well, which was like really, really nice to see. A lot of interesting topics were brought about, like problems that are not standard, and then people talking about how they solve them, that you don't get to see if you're looking it up on Google or any standard solution. Things I didn't even consider asking before. I got some really interesting insights, even from those who we talk to here daily. David had a lot to say that was really interesting, and we also got to talk to the people who did the presentations. Nick was a really fun person to talk to about the character controller and the test-driven development.
Yeah, the TDD setup on that one was really surprising and impressive too. Everybody that didn't see that one, he has this open KCC. You can find it on Google, and we can down below too. But it's just on GitHub. It's an open kinematic character controller, but he has it all written with unit tests that are really nice. It's like the whole presentation was great, not just on character controllers, but on the benefits and setup for unit testing as well. I thought it was like kind of like a 2-for-1 on that talk, which I totally didn't expect. I thought it was going to be all just character controller stuff, and it ended up being kind of a nice surprise.
The thing about character controllers, though, is that they're very prone to change, and as they change, they tend to break very easily. So it was kind of hand in hand to see, here's how you properly make sure you don't have any regressions in your character controller whenever you add a new feature. So it was like super exciting to see it done right.
It definitely was. There was a question in here I wanted to answer about the battler. It says, anyone know how to use what to use to open the battler download? So if you look down below, there's a asset pack. You just pull it into an empty Unity project, and it gives you the scriptable objects that we use for the normal giveaway. Today, though, we're going to do a different giveaway in the link down below in the gather section. So we're going to have a race, and the first person to get to the end will get the prize. So that's how you grab it, though, if you're curious for next time. Oh, cool. And it looks like another great comment. I took away at least 5 actionable takeaways from it. I was expecting a lot, and it still exceeded expectations. So that's awesome. Glad to hear that.
I was saying to you before this that, like, literally I have changed part of my workflow as a result of that, which is always good. It's always good when something actually sticks with you, is, oh, I'm going to actively work this in to my normal process.
What did you change?
Mostly I have my own validator code I've written a while ago, but after using the Odin Cybernex version of it, I was like, oh, they've expanded the definition of validator more than what I was doing, to the point where I kind of feel like I wanted to take some tips from it. So I was going to rewrite some of my own, but then I tried theirs, and there's just too many features for me to copy, and I just said, I'm just going to use theirs. So for now, at least for my own projects, I'm going to be using that. In fact, I'm going to try for the first time to kind of sell clients on trying to buying into Odin, because as I said back then, I can't justify convincing a client to buy a tool that's effectively prettier editors that they mostly won't see, that's for me inside of the editing tools, but something that validates the code and ensures that it has build sort of security for regressions. That is a good sell to a client that I can make justifiably. So now I can actually justify convincing clients that, yes, this is a small fee for what's going to make your products last longer, especially if it's ongoing development over 5-6 months. So it could be interesting. I'm personally using it already now. It's just a question of whether I can convince clients to buy in as well.
I don't think it'll be too hard, because you get that it's a relatively low cost for the benefit of no regressions and no error. It's really just like a security thing, like a safety tool for them and you.
Yeah,
right?
especially
and
because
it's also a performance improvement, right? Because the amount of time that you're going to spend saving on tools development, it's going to speed it up too. You kind of like mix that in there.
Yeah, 100%. It's the speed on tool development mostly, because I'm already building them custom tools that I'm doing all of my own code. But the thing I'm really interested about is they've got a validation base class you can extend from, and just write a validation check, and it'll get registered in the list. It'll be auto ran. You can have your own messages sent to it. So I can write custom validations for a client project, for like a VR project, to make sure the character is grounded, or that the physics is working correctly or stuff. And so it won't just be validating fields or not null. It'll be validating, are you within range of collectible items or something, stuff that is useful for a VR type space.
I think it's an easy sell. And did you already redeem your free Pro or Enterprise key?
Yeah. I've been playing with it already, so I'm already sold. I was already sold just from the talk, but once I played with it, I was doubly sold.
Nice. And you got your big asset pack to work too, right? That one was fun. I was surprised how many things from there. I think I ended up with 41 assets in there total or something like that. That got redeemed. I've lost track now.
I think the original link had like 41 assets mentioned.
I think so. I think it might have been 35. I've lost track now. There was something like that, but I can't remember the exact number. It was nuts. It took me a long time to go through and add them all. So I don't know. It was good, but I started building projects off of them. So I started grabbing them and I was like, oh, let me use this. And I actually started putting together, I'll have to open it up in a few minutes, a little tabletop multiplayer game that I was building for fun. So I was taking a break and resting by making a game. It's like taking some time off. It's like, I'm just gonna relax, take some time off, not do anything. It's like, build a game. I decided to write put together this little multiplayer tabletop thing using a bunch of those assets, because we already have them here. Why not pop them in and give it a go? So I don't know. Maybe I'll bring those up later. I got it opening up. So there's a question I think that I might have a good opportunity to answer here, because you just mentioned you were getting some Unreal assets and they're wondering, are you still trying Unreal? Anything new about it? So do you want to update everybody where you're at with that?
So I've been reading everything I can regarding some of the systems there. I've been looking into the fundamentals, not of how to use Unreal, but rather how Unreal works. There were some stuff there that are not identically carryable from Unity, and I wanted to be really sure that I'm not missing anything crucial. So I found a very interesting YouTube channel with really good long talks about how the systems vary and how to think about the differences between them. So I've been doing some thinking about how what I want to design should be designed when I'm going into Unreal. I also looked into how the engine actually does like the entire project buildup, because I know it's a bit more concentrated on because you have engine source access, there is less magic going around. Also, I think my camera is dead.
It's okay. We can still hear you. You can keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So when there is less magic going around, it means I have more control, but it also means I have more responsibility in a sense. So I wanted to figure out everything I need to do. Regarding features with Unreal 5, I'm really just making a checklist of like all the dream features I have and how they work. And so far, I'm really freaking impressed. The animation system is just god tier. I had a whole rant about it in JSON Story server. It's like a full. I ran out of a single Discord message length, and then I added more on top, just about what's really great about it. That said, it's really stuff we already covered in the first talk. With major releases, you mostly get the list of what's going on. You don't see any major features coming out for a while until after that. So there's not too much to say. They recently released Project Acoustics on the Unreal Marketplace, so that was really nice to see.
What's
they also
that?
had the Project Acoustics, the one where you have sort of rasterized audio traversal.
Yeah.
So they
kind of like audio bouncing, like light bouncing, right? Like rays.
Yeah. So they released that on the Unreal Engine Marketplace and the Project Lyra Acoustics, and they also had a long talk about this. So that was really nice to see. They explained all the internals of how you set it up in any project, how you upload it to the necessary Azure. How do you call it? The when you have a cluster of computers that are doing a ton of calculations together, and then getting you the result. So they explained that entire process for acoustics, because if you do it by yourself, it would take like 9 hours. So they have a service that does that for you in like 3 minutes, and then gives it back to you, and then you can just use that. And they also tell you how much it would cost you to use that service, because apparently, it's not free. uh, but you get like really realistic audio as a result, so it's really nice. I'm trying to solve the camera thing, by the way, as I speak, so sorry if I'm stuttering.
It's all good. Yeah, go ahead and fix it real quick. We got a bunch of questions that popped up here, and I wanted to show this real quick anyway. So let me just let's see. Let's start a couple questions. I'll show this one. So when I was telling you I started playing around making a little tabletop thing, this is what it looked like. Let's get the resolution right. Bam. So then hit play. Right now I got it set up in just all bot mode, so the bots will play. And let me make this thing. Where's my maximum? Oh, they've changed this again. This is the newest version. Have you seen this, Jason? This is in 2022.1. Oh no, this is 21. Yeah, this drop down. It changed again. I didn't realize that. And now
I'll be honest, it drives me insane.
There we go.
Well, I didn't like the other one.
The whole thing.
But yeah, this is it's better. At least it has options for the monitors, so it makes sense that there's a drop down instead of before it was just two things. But yeah, this was the setup so far. So grab some of the skeletons. I had some environment stuff in there, but I was doing some pushing and pulled it out temporarily. Little dudes that'll just kind of run up and go fight. It'll work on figuring out exactly what the thing's going to be. But yeah, once they get in range, they start fighting each other and taking turns. And you can set up as a player controller and control them too. They can make it maybe networked and up to 4 players on one of those little Tilt 5 tables would be fun. But it's just, one of those things, experimenting, because I didn't want to work. So I was like, not working, I'm just going to play.
Our ideas of experimenting vary greatly. I was talking to Johnny last night about an idea I wanted to try with dots, and I was like cracking my head about it for days, and I am basically on the verge of giving up on it because I don't exactly know how I want to parallelize it. And it probably would be very fun to talk about if that's fine.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
So when you're thinking about dots, you mostly get the benefits out of making entities and then running them, jobs on them in parallel, so that you can get like the most computation at a single point in time done. And games that need a lot of calculations that are simple, that can be parallelized, benefit the most out of dots. Mm-hmm. Now, the one that I wanted to do was something that needs a lot of computation, but not necessarily something that I know how to parallelize. And it was, so how do I start explaining this? So do either of you know how like you can visualize pathfinding for an agent when you're making a path and you want an agent to go through that path? There are usually obstacles, and the agent is making its due diligence to avoid the obstacles. Now, when you look into botting in 2D games like strategic games, League of Legends, Dota, there are skills that a character should dodge in order to not take the damage and then, win a fight. Mm-hmm. If you're thinking about character traversal in terms of botting, what you can do is when you know an ability is about to show up, you can present it in a timeline. If every frame is a step where you rasterize the 2D map and the projectile moves, it's effectively a collider to avoid.
Yeah.
A wall. So you can make pathfinding past moving things to figure out the best way to dodge all the skills. And I figured it would be a very fun game idea to make, say, some sort of like super smart agent that tries to get into like a base of yours, and you have to stop it with a lot of projectile weapons and stuff. And it manages to figure out how to do perfect dodging and how to figure out all your traps. And you have to stop him. Stop Agent Astar.
Couldn't you do that with just a nav mesh obstacle in front of your projectile?
You cannot, for multiple reasons. The first one is that it only solves the immediate frame for you if you do that. The second one is that colliders for nav mesh, even if you set them to slice, they effectively rebuild the nav mesh every single time. So not only you're solving the current frame, which might not give the agent enough time to respond, you get problems of how to explain this.
But I mean, if you put the slice out in front of the projectile visually.
Yeah,
right?
no,
If it was just a transformed child, it would be out in front, and it could slice the whole. I mean, it wouldn't be great for performance, but it could slice that whole area right in front.
Yeah,
right?
no, but there's two problems. That the first one is that you're effectively blocking the nav mesh from having a solution at all. If I just put a line of shots that he could possibly wait until they're passing and then continue, you can't do that. If he loses his path, he wouldn't know what to do. And then there's the other problem, which is, again, the entire loss of the rasterized map for doing things. You have to think about it, because there's a lot of ways to path out how a unit can go into the future and figuring out the best valid move. So
no, it makes sense. I was just thinking of a really sloppy, bad solution. The first case, yeah, because I can see all the problems you would get with that. The second, because it'd be constantly screwing up and getting weird paths and bouncing all around, probably.
Yeah, so I was thinking about how do you actually write it out into a form that can be parallelized. So if I could like make every job try to figure out creating a different frame of the current prediction of what you are shooting at the agent, and how do I game design it so it doesn't die out performance wise. For example, if I set close goals that the agent has to handle, like enter a building, steal an outfit, enter a secret room, get a key card, and do all that, and then reach the core. If I set small goals, it means that the agent has to calculate less spread of the pathing. So I figured that would be a good way to save on performance and also be fun game mechanics wise, because I could give the player enhancements for every single one of those mechanics that the agent has to go through. But the more I kept thinking about it, the more the idea exploded into how the hell do I even write this in dots?
More and more complicated. It sounds kind of cool, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're giving me flashbacks to Dungeon Keeper. I used to spend literally half of my classes just drawing out various traps and configurations for punishing the various AI trying to enter my dungeon. So I could totally see that being a fun process of trying to build mazes and complex things to stop something.
I missed that game. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Also, Peter Dam mentions how he would not use things as an obstacle, but rather as a heavy penalty. That's exactly right. And there's multiple things to that, because you can also make it so if an agent tries to step over, say, a mine, you could give that next frame a heavy penalty that just says basically give up on that path because you'll be taking the damage from the mine. Or if there's no better path, you could take the penalty and say, yeah, I have to go through that mine, take some damage, but at least I'll get to the target. Yeah, it's really fun stuff to think about. Pathing in general is a cursed topic in game dev that I think needs a lot more attention.
Yeah, and from a simpler example is if you had a character that's trying to get to a destination, and one path is across a bridge and one path is through a river or a ravine, they're going to have to choose between the longer, slower path, or can they take the faster path? And then you've got like a cost benefit analysis for the AI to go through, and so it leads to very interesting AI choices. Like you maybe have one unit who has no problem walking through rivers because they're really tall, versus one unit which would have to swim and therefore they'd be slower. And so even though it's the exact same path calculated by two different units, the units would act differently. The other ones would favor the water because they can get there faster as opposed to the bridge.
It's not about just the ability to move faster or slower or being able to move at all. There's also the
Yeah, it's what
limitations of
decisions
like,
would be valuable to take. Yeah.
yeah, but I'm saying that there's more to it than just the position and like your abilities. There's also limitations on resources, which gets into state keeping per graph iteration. So for example, if you can only swim for 5 steps, how do you insert that into the graph traversal code so that it knows it can only do 5 steps in the water?
Well, it seems like in that instance, you'd probably want GOP or something, because you could have real-time responses to the state changes of the world and have it like
Yeah.
decide to panic and turn around because it realizes it's run out of stamina or something, you know?
Yeah, but GOP is really just graph traversal, right? So we're back into
It is,
this
yeah.
thing.
That's just,
Yeah.
but it's a different. It's not like, yeah, it's separate from the graph of the environment. You're doing like a secondary graph of just your own behavior graph on top of it. And, yeah,
I mean, it's fun.
it'll start to get complicated. Yeah.
All right, you guys want to take a couple questions real quick?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
We've got quite a few of them. Let me find some that are not questions and that are actual statements. I started a bunch of stuff, but like half of them were statements. Things like they really liked the Odin validator, like yours too, and the dot stuff and all that. I thought it was really cool too. Let's remove those. Question about the tabletop project. Yes, it is going to be on that Tilt 5 thing eventually. Yeah. Oh, and then comment saying the only way it would have been better is if they said, look under your chair, you get what Tilt 5. Like, I actually went to a conference. I wanted to pop this one up because I actually went to a VR conference once and reached under my chair and won a computer that was my kid's computer for like a couple of years. It was like this high-end VR gaming system. I was like, oh, perfect. My kid needs a computer. Like, oh, there you go. So he got a huge upgrade there. That was really cool. That would have been cool though. And then let me see. I try to find one of the questions here that was more technical. Oh, here, let me pop up this source control one first. So this one was about, do you recommend alternative source control methods? And I really wanted to pop this one up because I'm curious what it is you guys use and recommend, and what do you use and recommend to people who are new to source control? Because I mean, I like to use Git a lot of the time, but for most Unity projects, I just use the built-in stuff, either Collaborate or now I just use Plastic because it works with Unity. It's easy and I don't have to explain it to people. I don't have to explain why they need to set up LFS if they're going to have large files and stuff. Although if I'm working on like a big commercial project, we're probably going to use Git. We're going to use, I mean, most likely, unless there's some forced reason to use something else. But I'm curious, what do you guys personally use, like for solo stuff and for team stuff? What do you think?
So I tend to use the integrated Git with whatever IDE I am on. So with Rider, it's pretty easy to set up. I think it was like 3 clicks to just version control whatever project I'm on. I don't tend to stray away from that, but I do have some guilty projects where I would copy paste files into a folder and then forget they exist there. Working with others, though, is, I think, part of the root of the question. And on that case, people who are not comfortable with using it should probably just be made comfortable. But if you can't afford to do that, then I recommend like some dedicated online only kind of board where everybody is always on the most up-to-date version. Something like a shared Milanote or Google Sheets even. It's not as great, but you do get history and you do get to work in parallel without breaking each other's stuff.
I'll be honest. I used to recommend Collab for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Collab was great. It was just a button press. Now, obviously, it had issues when the network went down and you couldn't pull down your project and various other complaints. But if you didn't want to worry about the minutia, it was really straightforward. Just one button and it worked.
Yeah.
To be honest, I can't say the same about Plastic because you have to go and install other stuff and go down a bit of a rabbit hole. It's more complicated. I do think it's still fine. I still use it on some client projects, but for the most part, if it's mine, I usually use Git. And specifically because if I'm sharing projects with people, Git's the easiest to share because you can just push it to somewhere and then people can fork it. They can do what they like. I just find you get a lot more freedom without needing to, because most people would have used Git even if you're not using Unity, right? Plastic is very, quite frankly, niche. I only use it in Unity. I don't use it for anything else. Well,
I don't know anybody that uses it outside of Unity.
Yeah, so people probably already have Git for their web projects or their other projects. Or what I do, I literally use Git for everything from my Obsidian to just notes. Like I use Git for files. Just any text-based file that I want to manage, I just make its own Git repo because like again, a lot of people look at Git as some weird source code thing. It's not. It's just a way of keeping files revisioned. And so if you've got a folder and it's got some text files in it, like if I'm writing a document, like if I'm writing an article, I will use Git just to version my own articles in my own folders. I won't push it anywhere. I'll just keep it locally. But even if I'm just writing a text file, I will version it and just use Git there. So yeah, usually I'll use Git, and like you said, I use Git LFS as well, and I'll set up the whole process with the Git ignore and the Git attributes and go through all that stuff. And then personally, I use Git flow for my branching strategy. I know it's contentious these days. A lot of people are saying Git flow is too much, but literally there's commands: Git flow feature start, Git flow feature complete or finish. It's really quick. You can start a feature, do it. It'll do all of the nice merges for you and follow the proper chain of publishing between your different branches of release and whatever. It turns the whole thing into a couple of lines. So I find that if you're working on a relatively straightforward project, doing branches out to feature branches and back is quite easy. So that's what I normally do.
I would want to say, though, that when I've tried to collaborate, we did have problems with merging, which was specifically, although it can lock people out, it would sometimes fail to do that. And when it does have a merge issue, it doesn't even have an available resolver for you to see what you have to pick between yours or theirs. You just have to say, yeah, discard mine or discard theirs and just use one, or open an external editor, and then they still have to go and find another application for that. And Unity doesn't even have a recommendation. So,
well, one thing as well that I actually only learned at the conference, I think, was I used to use one of the various third-party merge tools or resolvers, but somebody mentioned you could just like reference the exe to Unity's one inside the actual project. You can just reference Unity's resolver it uses, which obviously is knows what it's doing regarding things like asset files and meta files. So I haven't tried that yet, but in future I'm just going to hook that up as my resolver for my collisions and things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Shame it's not set up by default, though.
I don't know why there isn't a button to say Unity has a resolver. We're using Git. Press button to connect to Unity. Like it feels like it should be a given at this stage.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't even know it existed for years. Is kind of disappointing because it's like I've been trying to find good third-party ones, and yeah,
the amount of secrets that are hidden in our engines.
All right, you guys want to jump on to this next question real quick?
Yeah.
Messages here. Oh, before we do, I just wanted to mention that I set up the gather for, I just put out a link for everybody who's a member on the channel. If you hit the join button, I think you get access. You get in a little bit early. It's nothing super special, but if you wanted to get in early, or if you already had you already joined as a member, you can get access to that right away. There's a post in the members only section for that. All right, I'm going to shut up about that now and just go on to this question. So it says, can you talk a little bit about generation of IDs? I saw in Andrew's stream that he used UID and was curious when to use UID, GUID's static own ID, and what pitfalls should you avoid? And this was from Andrew's stream. Was this the one, was it yesterday? I'm losing track of my days. He was live streaming his RPG development.
Yesterday? Yeah, that was.
Might have been 2 days ago. I can't keep track of which day it is
same.
anymore. But that one. So do you guys have some thoughts about that? And here, let me drop the link for this smart merge in the chat too that we were just talking about. Okay.
So am I right in saying that there is no difference between UID and GUID? I mean,
so the UID is an umbrella term for unique identifier,
Yeah.
and so a GUID is another UID, as is
Well, it's
any
globally
unique. Exactly. Yeah.
It's even more unique.
Yeah. So
Doubly unique, yeah.
not talking about the questions though. When we're talking about generation of IDs in general, a unique identifier is literally just meant to be, I can identify as this, nothing else can identify as this. When you are referencing something, this is what points to me. Now, we already implement this concept in our life everywhere. When you have an ID card, it has a number, a serial number that somebody else outside can say, a record of all the people who are yada yada. They see the number, that number only points to a unique individual the one with the card, the one with all your details, you. This is done in games whenever you make, say, an asset and you want to load that specific asset. You cannot have two assets that have the same ID, because otherwise you wouldn't know which one to load. Unity manages all of that for you. Whenever you make an asset, you get a meta file, and that meta file says this is the unique identifier of the asset, and also some other information about that asset. If you move a file in Unity, the meta file moves with it, so it maintains its identity. If there isn't one, it will generate one for it based on, I see a file existing, it has no meta, I am making it a meta, and I'm giving it an ID. And the reason that you want to synchronize your meta files is so that you can get to keep the IDs, otherwise you'll be breaking references left and right. Now, this is the type of pitfalls you want to avoid in Unity in general. Know that meta files are important to maintain an identity of something. When you move something between projects, the meta files, I think, make a different ID depending on the path of where it is relative in the project. I don't remember the entire details, but it's worth looking into. Not that people move things between projects too often. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think just to kind of step back a little bit and talk about the kind of holistically the global idea. As Jura was saying, yeah, an ID is just a unique identifier, and it doesn't. There is a question, of course, global versus on a local machine. If I was to identify three things as the red one, the blue one, and the green one, that's perfectly fine locally. If my universe only consists of those things, it only starts to become a problem if I try to share with somebody else and they have a different definition of what green is based on the color they've chosen. Suddenly things aren't unique; they're confusing. So one thing to really note, because again, I was confused about this for years. When people say ID, UID, or GUID, there isn't a unique like structure. There's not like a pattern. Fill it in, it looks like this. It's not like an email address where it has a defined whatever. If you can uniquely identify something, then that's a unique ID. So it can be a bit confusing. In database terms, some stuff can just be 0, 1, 2, 3. That's a perfectly fine unique ID if it's consistent across the course of your project. What's more likely, though, is, as we said, if it's a big, complicated bit of data, you're probably going to share it with somebody else, and you want to make sure it's unique theoretically on someone else's computer. And so that's where GUIDs come in. And GUIDs are a pretty universal way of generating a unique identifier. And the way they work, this gets into a big bit of detail. This Weimann Chen has a article on this. I'll paste it here. And basically described how it works. And it's effectively a GUID is generated by using the machine's MAC address, a timestamp, and some extra bits of information that are kind of bundled together. So that's how it generates a unique ID. And based on other research that's beyond my understanding for math, it'll explain that realistically, the likelihood of you getting a collision is astronomically small. So even if you have thousands of computers generating thousands of GUIDs at all the time, the chances that two will collide are very rare. So it's a really reliable way to have large systems that are co-located and deal with things. But if you're just doing stuff for your own machine or a small project, you don't need all of that. And there is trade-offs in both cases. GUIDs are harder to search by because you have to remember what number it is, and they're unique. There's no sequential numbers to it, which can be both a benefit and a cost. It makes it more reliable, but it makes it harder to like increment and test. What about number 5? What about number 6? But database administrators and people who do web APIs actually prefer GUIDs for that reason too, because you don't want to have, I'm customer number 17. What if I change to 18 and see what customer 18's information looks like? Being non-sequential is actually a security benefit because you can't just type in a random thing and guess what the IDs are. So there's a lot to discuss about when you should or shouldn't use certain ID types. But the main takeaway is that like if you take half the company name, like one of the banks I saw back, years ago, they used to use like half your account number, half your user number, a couple of characters from your email or something, and they'd like make a new unique ID, and that's how they would store things. So it's not a specific format, it's just the concept of an ID that they can use to uniquely identify things.
Yeah, I wanted to mention two things. First, there was some asset reference thing that I just recently watched and learned about, and I've totally forgotten it, and it uses GUIDs, so you could add a GUID to your game objects and have them reference to that. I gotta remember what it is. If anybody in chat remembers what it is, it was something that was in one of the packages, I think. I can't remember what it is, though, but if anybody does, please tell me. The second one was with GUIDs, even though it says they're globally unique, I have definitely seen multiple scenarios where we had collisions, where the same GUID got generated more than once. It's not common, but it definitely happened more than once in MMOs at least.
The thing is, though, you can always declare what kind of size for a unique ID do you want. For example, in Terraria, we have a bunch of items, but we only use 4 bytes to say this is the ID of the item. Globally unique IDs, the standard implementation is 16 bytes, I think. So that increases your permutations by like 10 to the power of 30, which is a lot. Enough to fit 1 billion entries per human and more. So it's not necessarily a problem, but the generation of them is still a problem to solve, because you can't globally say somewhere out there is something that serves unique IDs per request. Different machines can generate them at the same time. So unless you make one source of truth, you're going to have a problem. Which is why either the source of truth has to be the same for everybody via determinism, or it has to be the same for everybody via requests and receipts.
And even that can cause issues, because if you have a database, if you have some sort of web API that can query to get unique IDs generated, you can still get 2 requests come in at the same time, and sometimes cause issues with that as well. And to get 2 things receiving the same ID, so there's no real bulletproof solution to uniqueness, unfortunately.
Yeah, that said, you can just make your unique identifier be a path and then not change that path. Because a path is part of an identity. This is the thing at location. This is why in Windows, you can have 2 things with the same exact file path. A file path only designates one exact result.
Jason, I wanted to pop up this question for you. I don't know if you want to answer it. I know what my answer is. I'm curious if yours is the same. It's just how would you go about making a procedural generated dungeon in Unity for an RPG game? So how would you, and would you? Is that something you would even
I was going to
consider?
say, well, the first answer for me personally is I wouldn't, just because I'm very, my interest in games, we've talked about this before, but from the Bottle's taxonomy of players, there's different kinds of people that play games for different reasons. And I play for mostly narrative reasons, and I don't find procedural generated dungeons that appealing unless you can weave in narrative pieces to it. So I don't know, I probably wouldn't, but if I was going to, I follow a rule of simplicity. I will find an asset that does it, and I will just use that to start. There's lots of them. I've used 2 or 3 in the past for client projects. And until something does require some kind of unique something, I will just use whatever asset is available. There's no point in, if it's about prototyping an idea, I will take the first thing that does it for me, because the proceduralness is not the thing that makes your game compelling. It's the game compelling. So you should just figure out what the game is, throw together 4 or 5 rooms, procedurally generate whatever hundreds you want, test if it's fun, and then once you know that it's fun, we can now rewind back and say what's worth custom building versus what's worth using a third party. But I certainly wouldn't go into it with no proof of the game being fun and start by building a procedural generated system. That's just a large waste of time.
That's what I was thinking. I would only do the procedural system yourself if you plan to make it an asset and sell it, and you really want to do that as the job. Otherwise, just I'd use one of the existing ones, most likely. It's just it's not worth your time. Spend the time on the part that's going to make it unique and fun, I think.
And I think the biggest selling point for me to prove this point is anyone who's ever played a bunch of those large open world exploration games. One of the most famous ones for that was Subnautica was considered this really big, interesting world. And people asked the devs many times, how did you make a space that's procedural, but that's that interesting? And the answer is they didn't. That's not a procedural game. Every single thing and biome and region has been placed by a designer. And that may sound like a lot of work, but quite frankly, that's how you get the difference between something that looks so good that it must have been placed versus something that was placed is you don't. You just literally place it. Like if you want to construct a narrative, you have to construct a narrative. A generator can only ever get you so far. And I don't know about everyone else here, but once you've been playing enough games throughout your life and you've been programming for long enough, you can start to see the seams really quickly. And no amount of procedurality will ever really do it for me now, because I can spot pretty quickly how it's like there's no guiding hand. Nobody is making me have a fun adventure. They just pressed a button and stuff happened. The closest I ever got was Returnal on the PS5. That game is the best procedural dungeon I've ever seen, where it took me a while before I started seeing the seams. I think it was like 3 hours or 2 hours, probably 3 hours. I played that game before I went, oh, now I'm starting to see repetition. So that has been the best procedural stuff. But even then, like I said, I wouldn't personally. I prefer a structured thing. If you want to do it like 2 set pieces and there's a corridor and you want to procedurally generate corridors to make the pathing more interesting, sure. But if you're procedurally generating the experience, that's just not going to be a compelling game for me.
Yeah, I was talking to Salim yesterday or day before for a long time about level designers. He's actually trying to convince Lenny to hop on here sometime and talk about level design. He's been a level designer for as long as I've known, like 20 years. So he's really, really fucking good at it. And just how it's a skill and how it's a very specialized skill that some people are like amazing at. And then there's people like me that are terrible at it, right? Like I'm not even close. So I definitely recommend that you use good level design too and have somebody that's good at it. You all right? Did you want to take this or do you want to jump on? There was another question I was going to ask you, unless you had something you really want to tell them about level generation.
So it depends on what you're trying to do, but there are a lot of ways to cheat into making it. Just practical advice instead of the conceptual things. So as Jason Story mentioned, when you generate a level, you don't necessarily have to do the entire work procedurally, because getting something procedural, while it is easy in a sense of just place stuff, it's never easy in terms of make it feel well. So what a lot of developers recently started doing is they're making preset rooms, but they're making different placeables within the rooms. So even though you get the same basic outline for, say, a boss room, that boss room could have different corners or different things in the middle or a pit or whatever have you. It's just literally turn an object on or off, depending on what you want. Risk of Rain 2 is really good at that. There's a lot of stuff that get either placed or not placed, or things change location. But the entire map layout is usually the same. There's also this teleporter you have to keep finding to move to the next level, and that's in a different spot every time. If you are trying to do that actually fully procedurally, you could make rooms that spawn other rooms until they run out of space, or you could carve out holes and then make paths, as Jason Story mentioned. And if you want to go like a fully procedural world, not a dungeon, you could do it by a per block basis. Minecraft uses a lot of noise stuck together and then interpreted into certain things. So, for example, if they want to do caves, all they do is they use Perlin noise, and then they pick certain thresholds, and they carve out the land into these thresholds. So, for example, if you look at Perlin noise, it's just a gradient of like blacks and whites in different shapes. And if you pick only the whites at a certain threshold, you can carve out holes that look like Swiss cheese. If you pick only the blacks, you'll get the opposite of that. But you can also like change the threshold a bit, so it's like noodles. Or if you pick only the things between the black and the white, you'll end up with like long spaghetti lines. They actually call that. They have different noises specifically named after that. Cave carvings specifically named after that. They also do a lot of like stacking of different noises to make the elevation layers. That's something that's really common in terrain generation, where you take big noise layers and like the more you stretch them out, the more they look like actual mountains, and then the tinier they are, the more they look like crabbles and things that have fallen over time. So you can really just stack a bunch of noise together and you'll make something that looks nice. But again, what you're looking for is a player experience. So try to prioritize making it feel well.
That's actually a good point. I was entirely thinking of like prefab stacking based dungeons. So mentioning the idea of noise is probably something to touch on as well. For people who aren't familiar with it, noise as a general concept is literally kind of, it's like randomness. And if you were to just randomly pick 10 points in a row, you'll get spikes, these really weird unconnected spikes, because real random is real random. And that's separate argument that computers can't really generate real random. That's a different conversation. The kinds of things we're talking about, though, in something like Minecraft, you're usually using some kind of noise algorithm that is sort of pseudo random noise, or some way of controlling for that. The most classic example would be something like Perlin noise. Everyone's seen that, like that sort of cloud-looking noise thing. The same texture is used in Photoshop and stuff that you apply noise. In general, the way those things work is if you pick a random number and another random number, the distance between those can vary wildly to the point that it's unreliable. If you're doing something where you want to make like hills or mountains, you actually want the noise to be kind of close to the last position. So things like Perlin noise are actually stored giant lists of random numbers that are randomly within range of each other. And that way, what you do is you sample a position on that list, and then you can walk up and down. And so the numbers will always be somewhat smooth, which gives you a lot nicer sort of rounded hills and mountains. There's tons of other different noise algorithms. Perlin just tends to be quick and cheap to do. And then what you do is you stack it. Just like anybody who's ever worked with sound waves, you can have a base wave that's quite big. You can then have smaller waves that add spikes, and you can kind of add different tiers on top of it, and you can get really complicated stuff. And again, Minecraft being a good example, they've got multiple different layers of noise, which have different, for different ores and different iterations. And it's a fascinating subject, and there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with it. And it's not just for things like terrain generation. If you've ever seen that like retro wave, the hills moving towards you, and there's like a sun in the distance, that's legitimately just Perlin noise. It's 3D Perlin noise, and you sample two positions and you just move along the mountain. So even though it looks like mountains are flying past you, it's actually you're stationary in the mountains. You're moving through the terrain. You're walking up and back through the terrain space, because it's basically a noise space at that stage, and you're just walking around it. So
did Jason Weimann freeze?
I think he's just so enraptured with what we're saying. He's just sort of listening intently.
Well,
there was one question I was going to answer earlier, which kind of skipped over. Might as well answer it now. Somebody asked what rider themes we use, and I thought this would be a fun one because it's a bit contentious. People are not going to be happy with this one. So the theme is boring. The theme I just use is Atom Dark 1, I think. It's just I generally like Nord style themes, any of the ones which have a sort of I don't like solid black themes. I don't like solid white themes. Cream ones if it's on the whiter side, and then if it's on the darker side, it has that sort of bluish Nord tint. But here's the bit people are going to freak out about. I use different fonts, and recently I've switched to Comic Code. And what Comic Code is a monospaced version of Comic Sans. And I'm not joking. I'm legitimately using Comic Sans in that code format. It's a font made by Toshi Amagari. And when Jason comes back, he'll post a link. And I thought it was a joke too when I first saw someone talk about it. But they made a really good argument, which is, why is Comic Sans so popular? Well, it's hated, but why is it popular? Well, because it is considered one of the best dyslexic fonts to use, because every character is unique. So your eyes can very easily distinguish the different characters and shapes, which on a sign can be quite ugly, which look better to have consistency on signs. But when you're reading code, it's actually really nice to be able to like jump to different points in your code and visually have a much clearer snap to what you're doing. So it's not for everybody. But if you want something cleaner, I used to use Fira code before this, and there's also Victor Mono. And it's just worth trying what you like, but you'd be surprised. It does look a little bit cartoony. That is true, but there's a lot of freedom in being able to just quickly glance at your code and see exactly where you are, because the landscapes are very unique per character. And like I said, if someone has trouble with dyslexia and they're trying to write code or something, it's literally makes it much easier for people to discern shapes and detect words. So maybe give it a try. Don't judge too harshly.
I'm not intending to, but it does bring up a very interesting point, which is how do you pick a font in general, which is like a whole loaded topic.
It is. But the only thing I will say is, for code, you want monospace. That's the one. Doesn't matter whatever else, just make sure it's a monospace font.
And do you know how to explain why?
So it takes up the same characters. But I don't know if there's something more you want.
No, I mean, like, why is it an advantages to have the same character size?
That's a good question. Well, for me, it's because it's consistency in line positions, but I don't know about what your.
I mean, I guess that's fair. One thing I do know about that is that there are characters that are easy to miss, and I find that monospaced sizes let you very
Of course,
clearly.
like an eye would be very small, hard to see on certain things, and yeah.
Yeah, so as it's stuck together and you're far away, it makes it far easier to see what characters you use. Also, there's the whole questioning whether you use serifs or not, and that's for readability, whether you're in games or in the code itself. There's a lot of nuances to when you want to pick which one, because serifs, while they tend to be controversial, they have very distinct advantages when you're trying to read a long piece of text. That said, is your game going to have a long piece of text at all? There's a reason that most of the web stuff that we see these days pick to not go with serifs as well. There's also how loaded the text ends up looking when you're doing a blur test. For example, if you don't want to obfuscate what's behind the text too much, you want the player to be able to see something behind floating text, then it matters that you use less visually presented characters. So, for example, no serifs. And looks
I think
Weimann is
Jason's
back.
nearly back.
Yeah. Not discernible audio though.
I think he's currently calling in from another dimension. He'll probably resolve soon.
Yeah, we'll probably get him in the pathfinding as he finds his way here. So there was a person who asked if Terraria is noise-based generation. I was speaking about Minecraft, but just to touch on that, so Terraria doesn't exactly use noises almost at all. What we do is a lot of random calls and then interpreting that as we see fit. The ways we use the randoms tends to vary a lot. There is one thing that we do a lot of that makes the generation seem like it would have noises, but it's essentially random walkers, where we have a paintbrush and it moves in random directions with a different radius, a different brush pressing height. And that carves out things in the terrain. So, for example, we start with a very big brush, and then as it goes forward, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you get like a tunnel that a player can run through. And then we have a bunch of steps in the generation where, after we've done that carving, we'll turn any mud that's exposed to air, say, into grass or anything of that sort. It's also we have processes where we take a portion of the mud that's found somewhere in the world and we change that into a different material. And then based on that material, if there's anything else nearby, then we start generating different stuff for that. For example, if we end up with grass on the ceiling, we'll generate vines under it. And we have orders for, say, things like microbiomes, which are placed on top of other things. They try to find a place that kind of fits them, and then they rig the place to look like they've always been there. It's not as elegant as some other things that could have been done, but it's very friendly to author if you're trying to make a lot of them.
And if you're curious about the whole random walker concept, there is a book, Nature of Code, or natureofcode.com, and you can check out the ebook, and it will guide you through explaining. Literally, the very first example in that book is a random walker, and then from there, it'll guide you through the various steps of making it more complicated until you end up with flow fields and custom AI. So there's a long journey through that path.
Yeah. Also, regarding Returnal, as you mentioned it, I was thinking, I think it was recently announced, like this week, that it's going to arrive to PC. So that would be really fun, because I didn't get to have a PS5 yet, and I really want to play that game. It's like the only thing I want a PS5 for right now.
It's really good. I mean, the thing that I also really enjoyed is it's got very satisfying weapons. a lot of games like that, the weapon sounds don't really sound that good, but they did a really good job of making it feel like you're in like an alien movie or something. It has that big, chunky sci-fi weapons and evil things you're fighting. It all kind of works very well.
Yeah, but more than that, I was like really excited to see it because the developers actually had a gigantic VFX breakdown video on the Sony site.
Well, of
If
course,
you,
it's the VFX that you want to watch it for. I forgot. That's your area.
yeah, I mean the game is really pretty and they do a lot for it.
It is, yeah.
Now, Jason Weimann isn't here, is rebooting everything right now. But if you want to find that, if you just Google Returnal VFX, you'll find a gigantic video, like 7 minutes, just showcasing all the different VFX engine stuff that they do. It's really interesting to understand the workflows and then wish that your game engines had them. Do you have any other questions you wanted to go through?
Yeah, I'm just going down through them now.
Oh,
you're
back.
back and clear. Yeah, you're back. Nice.
Yeah.
Woo. All right. I'm laggy, but I think it's working.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
continue on. Whatever you're saying, I totally missed everything. Internet totally went out. I had to restart the. Looks like we're back online.
I think you froze again. Oh, yeah, you're back. Okay. It's choppy, but it should be fine.
Yeah, it's a lag. It seems.
Yeah, if anybody has any other questions, drop them in again. We tried to get through some of them, but the chat goes too fast. So if you have a question, drop it in.
Yeah, scrolling forever.
I can pop up a whole bunch of them. Here's one. Do you think it's worth
Please do.
hosting your own web services versus renting or depending on something else? Have you already answered this one?
No, that
no,
hasn't
we
come up
don't.
yet. Again, like every question like this is the same answer. Is a good return on investment? Probably not when you start. So start with something quick and simple. Prove that it works. If it works and it gets popular, ask yourself if it's worth doing the upgrade, or if it is, even if it is an upgrade, customly make it yourself, and then you can do it. But honestly, if 90% of the time it's not about the architecture or the network or the whatever else you're built on, it's about whether the game is going to be fun, sustainable, build an audience, and maintain an audience. If your game is so fun that people are enjoying it on a small network with a small setup, you'll be able to get the funding and resources you need to scale it up. That's not going to be a problem. You'll have a much harder time if you have the world's best architecture and the game sitting on top of it sucks. It doesn't. No matter how much architecture you put, it's not going to fix the problem. So honestly, every one of these questions is always the same. Do something small, prove that it works, prove that it's a viable market and product. Then once you have that, you can find the money. You can get people who are going to fund you. You can prove once you have a market, everything else beyond that point is just scaling up, and try to scale up in kind of increments relative to the project.
It does bring up a lot of interesting nuances about how you scale up it all, though. For example, there are web services that you can hire that do automatic scaling for you, and you should set a cap if they do that, because if you're deploying some service and that service bugs out and starts making infinite requests, you're going to find yourself with a gigantic bill at the end of the day.
I literally had a custom database that was just me playing around with some stuff on Azure, and I accidentally I reserved myself a machine that was like a high-end machine, and so even though I did literally nothing with it, it gave me a high-end machine for 3 days, and they were going to charge me like 600 just for like having this thing that. And it wasn't until I reached out to them and said, look at the usage, I didn't use it at all, this was an accident, that they were like, okay, we realized a mistake was made, and they fairly enough they didn't charge me for it. But it can happen very, very easily, that you can press a button and like use way more resources than you need.
Yeah,
You
so
definitely got to put the price restrictions, or you can put spending caps on there. Make sure you do that when you start experimenting with that stuff, even when you're using it in production. Put those on just in case.
Yeah, if it's not your machine, immediately do that. There are definite horror stories out there about this. That said, though, one of the smartest things, in my own opinion, is to just not bother doing the networking and databases yourself, especially in games. Player-hosted servers give the players way more agency and comfort in how they want to do the stuff. They will deploy servers if they want to play together. They will modify servers if they want to play a custom experience, and you don't have to manage all of the potential cheating, and etc. etc. Players can moderate each other relatively well, and giving them agency to do so, not doubting their intelligence or anything, is really useful. If your game is based on competitive content and so on and so forth, you do need to do all the lookup for that. But if your game is small scale, which I kind of assume it is, just based on the nature of the question, um, then I suggest you just look into the services available to you, because both Epic and Steam have services to do things like leaderboards for you. They will do Steam drops for you. They will do a lot of external account management services for you without the need for you to deploy your own stuff for it.
I want to answer this question and then take one of the other ones. It just asked how close to your real code practices would you stay during live coding sessions versus if you weren't streaming to teach. So they're just kind of curious, like when doing these live streams and showing stuff online, like how close is it to real versus how much of it is kind of customized. For me, most of the time, it's just slightly cleaner in the live streaming stuff. If I'm like streaming it, I will take less shortcuts and do things a little bit cleaner. Only because I don't want people to misunderstand and think that my shortcuts aren't something that I'm going to delete like a minute later. So a lot of time it ends up being a little bit better just because I skip the shortcuts just so that people don't get confused. But I don't know about you guys. Do you have the same? Do you do much live coding? I know Jason does a little bit.
Yeah, well, I try not to. I don't like it. Main reason is that funny, when you're saying shortcuts, you mean shortcuts as in like cutting corners in code, but I literally mean shortcuts as in physical like keyboard shortcuts. In that when I code, I use a lot of keyboard shortcuts. I've got a ton of custom live templates, they're called, in Writer. I know all the other completes and shortcuts and stuff, and I get a lot of questions about that. So they're instinct, right? If I'm writing a script, I think I gave the example during the conference, but like again, start with an empty class, CTOR tab brings up the biggest constructor, type variable name in the constructor, Alt Enter, auto creates the backing field, Alt Enter again creates a property that's read only off of that backing field, and then implement I notify property change, Alt Enter, drop that in, do another. Like the amount of keys I would type are quite low, and the amount of code that gets typed is quite quick. So if something was a singleton, I just write SIG tab, and I've written my own custom snippet that will make a generic. It'll replace the type, create a singleton, do an instance, do a lazy loaded getter, the whole lot. So if someone's watching and I'm just like dropping in 4 lines of code when I type SIG and press tab, it's not going to be very educational. So I because I have to turn all of those things off. I'm not just slower when I do a live stream. I'm slower by a lot more because I have to remind myself to not do that. Try to remember the other way. That's the original way to do it. And I just find that it ends up making it for a clunkier stream. So yeah, I usually prefer not to do that. If someone does see me code live, it's normally much smaller examples where I talk about one method or one class for like 2 hours, or in the case of one of the ones on Andrew's stream, where I basically just say, give me a second, and I just write the code fast myself, and then I talk about it. I rarely do both.
All right. When you guys want to take this question on fixing models real quick, this is something that used to drive me nuts until I finally learned how to do it. I wrote a blog post about it, but I want to let somebody answer it here. It says, is there a way to fix the direction of a model from within Unity without putting it as child of another object, like an asset is backwards or upside down on its axis? And usually it's like either tilted over sideways or completely backwards, or both, but most of the time it's tilted over 90 degrees. So anybody want to explain how to fix that? It says within Unity, but I can recommend the better ways.
Yeah, I was about to say that you kind of can't, because the problem is from the FBX import itself, with the FBX being exported wrong from the application it's been used in. Also, you forgot to mention the whole 0.01 scale or 100 scale.
Oh,
that
yeah.
tends to happen with bad exports and imports. So just to explain what's actually happening, different applications for 3D use different axes for how they work. and they also use different scales. And when you're, say, working in Blender and you're using the default FBX export, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to be the same way in every game engine that you use, because the different axes mean different things. For example, in Unity, the z-axis is the forward axis, but in Blender, that's not necessarily identical to that. And when you are doing that export, you actually have settings to say, I am exporting to an application that will want this axis in that direction. So this is part of what you have to look at for these things. There is more to it than that, because there's also problems with scale. Blender specifically has a button to say apply scale to a different type of source. So depending on what engine you're exporting to, again, you have to pick different stuff. And lastly, there's the whole concept of parenting to rigs, which, depending on your application, it will export this, different results. So in Unity, for example, if you just export a static mesh, or rather just a mesh without a rig, it's going to show up with a fine rotation. But if you export a mesh that's a child of a rig, that mesh is going to have the 90-degree rotation that you're talking about. For Blender, you should get the Unity FBX exporter plugin available within Blender. Yeah, so that's one option. There are still some caveats here and there. I ended up making my own plugin just for that in Blender. The point is, though, with Unity, it's pretty difficult to just say, yeah, export this right or change the settings. I do agree with you that they should have added it into the FBX importer itself, and they did actually add a checkbox that flips the axis on the FBX, but only in one direction, and you can't really control that, so it's kind of disappointing.
All right, let's take another one. I'm going to try that FBX exporter too in Blender. I'm used to doing it manually, but now I want to just try that and see if it will kind of like auto fix. I'm curious what that does versus the just fixing it myself and then exporting it. So how do you find the unique selling point of your game? Jason, you got thoughts on this one?
I have lots of thoughts on this one, but I guess
I'm going to switch our sides so we can look at each other.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I'm not going to say this isn't really difficult. It's really, really difficult. But I will say, at least from my experience, like, ideas have almost no relationship to reality when it comes to game mechanics and concept of quote unquote fun until you've played with them enough and you understand. Like, there are some people who can come up with a fun idea and like make it a fun idea, but they are very few, and there are people who've done hundreds or thousands of examples of it before. Normally what happens is you have an idea that sounds fun, but in practice is disappointing because there's no relationship between wouldn't it be cool if and the real mechanics of the actual flow of doing it. And so what I found is, rather than trying really hard to take a mechanic and make it fun, if you listen to a lot of stories about games, especially the GDC talks, you'll almost universally hear the same story of we set out to make X game. As we did this thing was more fun. We leaned into that, we added more stuff, and this is what our game became. So there's no shortcut to finding the quote unquote fun for your game, but what there is during the process, every so often you'll be like given a path, almost like a side quest in a game, like a hint to go in this direction, something's happening, and you'll feel it. You'll be enjoying playing with the bug that just happened with your weapon or your vehicle. And if you fight the urge, if you just go, oh no, I'll just fix the bug and go back to this thing that I don't enjoy, you're killing an avenue of fun that your game has. And so try not to look at it as, try to look at it like you're spelunking to find entertainment. And if you find something fun, you're probably not in the minority. You're probably hinting on something that's interesting there. It may not be the direction you want. You may have to sort of like move it back into a sensible place for your game, and maybe it's overpowered or whatever. But the short answer is, like, you will just try out things, see what's fun, and then lean in the direction that actually works, not in the like hard direction you wanted. The example I gave, which I think is my favorite because of how ridiculous it is, the Halo, like I said, the guys who made Halo, their first game was, well, not first, but the game before that was Marathon, and Marathon was your like spacesuit guys and they're shooting and like whatever. They didn't want to do that for the next game, so their next game was called Monkey Punch, and Monkey Punch was this top-down RTS game where you clicked and moved units and whatever. But as they did that, they built a vehicle. and the vehicle was more fun than clicking the units. And so they're like, what if we drive the vehicle rather than clicking to move it? So then they drove it around. Well, this is fun. What if we could see in first person from the vehicle's perspective? Okay, this is more fun. Okay, but now whenever we zoom out to the characters, that's not fun. So let's make them first person too. And they fell back into making Halo, which was not at all the game they started out making. So like you will have the most, you will end up with a better product if you lean into what your game is telling you is working and ignore the stuff that isn't.
There is something to be said about when people are gravitating towards something, you need to think about why they gravitate towards it. And whether you like that or not, that's probably something worth pursuing or eliminating entirely. I would refrain from saying no fun allowed, though. This is one of the sentences that I see people sticking to too much. When they're trying to make a game and they're setting an initial goal and then they're sticking specifically to it, they will try to forsake everything else just to get the goal done, to be able to give themselves the check mark. That's something to watch out for. If people are having fun with something and it's not breaking your entire universe, allow it. And if you find it fun yourself, consider encouraging it or making it more easily accessible. I do think, though, that a unique selling point for a game can be really thrown into the mud if you can't get people to be comfortable in your game. There's a lot of concepts about building user trust that games violate by not respecting inputs or not considering the player's sense of choice as they do things. The agency of the player, making sure that their will carries out into what you're doing. Making sure that their will carries out in every aspect of the game matters a lot. So, for example, if a player wants to make something quickly, they shouldn't start remembering 50 different button combinations to open an inventory, open a submenu, open the crafting table, pick the fifth option, click the thing, wait 5 seconds, then click another thing. Those things are tedious. There's a reason that there are a lot of menus, but the point there is that if somebody wants to make something quickly, you should give them a fast path to just say, yeah, craft the thing.
I said all the time regarding use cases. At the end of the day, your game is about a series of use cases. Like, I want to make my base better. How do I do that? I need to craft a something. How do I craft it? I need to. And if you track the use case, try not to get in the way of the players actively engaging in those use cases.
Yeah, and if you don't give people those convenience points, you give them friction instead. That friction can really drive them off from any unique selling point you have. So just make sure that you have something that is fun, that people gravitate towards, you encourage people to gravitate towards it, and then you put no friction in the way to gravitate towards it.
Yeah, and I will say, well, all of this is a little bit holistic from the advice up to this point. If you want something a bit more tangible, saying, I have mechanics, why aren't they fun, or how do I make them more fun? Something very practical you can apply is systemic thinking, which basically means that one of the quickest ways to make something not fun is for it to have no point. And the example I've used before is you could have a game where you are farming and you farm and that's it. You collect your vegetables, maybe you sell them, that's it. Right? But then you have another mechanic where you're shooting monsters or you're protecting your farm at night. Those two things would have no correlation. One thing doesn't, there's no connection between the two other than protect your farm or, the farm. But if by killing creatures, you get different kinds of ingredients, which you can then use to make better mulch for the farm, which then makes the vegetables grow better, which gives you more money to sell them, which gives you better weapons, which then helps you fight better, and it keeps sort of a feedback loop. That's where it gets interesting, because now you've given agency to the player to decide what they want to engage in. So if they prefer the hunting portion, then they are being rewarded for that by getting more resources. And if they prefer the farming portion, they are rewarded for that, for doing the farming side of it, but you're still enticing them to do the other stuff too, to feedback loop into the thing that they're enjoying more. So if you don't, you end up with these weird lopsided gameplay mechanics. And that's why a lot of the best ones have a very clear loop. Any system sides into the next system. It doesn't have to be perfectly one-to-one, but if there's no reason to do something, players won't do it. If you've got a building mechanic and some shooting mechanic and there's no reason to do one or the other, then nobody will do it. So you need to have the systems feed into each other. That's probably the quickest way to turn mechanics fun. If I have a jumping and I lock doors, then you should be jumping to get to the locked doors or whatever. There needs to be some relationship between the things that you're doing.
There is one more point to bring up, though, that when you're trying to describe a unique selling point, you should be able to describe it, which is something that a lot of games will fall onto, because they'll try to say it's this, but with that, or trying to explain it in way too many words. Trying to make a unique selling point that you can concretely describe as your own, and not differentiate into other units, would help a lot. Because if you're just making another Stardew Valley or another Minecraft, you might have a problem. Because they can already, just to explain, you might have a problem because people are saying, well, it's just another Minecraft. I have a Minecraft. Yours is not unique. I'll just keep playing Minecraft.
Saying it has to be better. It can't just be exactly the same.
It has to be different enough that you can feel
asterisks
that it's
different. As long as you'll take in some kind of different audience, I guess.
Yeah, but it has to be good, though, because just because it's different doesn't mean it's better. If it's Minecraft but Minecraft with poop on it, it's not going to be exactly appeling.
Totally
hey,
changed
some
the
people
color
might like
scheme.
it, yeah.
Different animals now. Same game. Well, we got a ton of questions in here, so I'm gonna pop up one or two more before we open up the meetup part two. Was there one that you guys specifically wanted to answer in here? I've got a ridiculous amount. I really wish it would let me show you the pinned ones in here.
Just go for it. I guess just a short answer, the one that's up at the moment. How do you keep scope creep? The very simplest answer to this one is just simply, it's about value, right? Like it's there's a million things you could possibly add to a project, but before you decide to commit to doing something, ask yourself how much value these things add to the game. Some things are high value, some things are low value. If you just quickly assert the value, and then you make sure that you add the high value items, then keep in that order, the project will consistently get better. And if you are following a slightly, it doesn't have to be fully, but slightly agile workflow, always be buildable and playable in these short bursts. I recommend 2 weeks, 1 week ideally, but it's not feasible in a lot of projects. So if every 2 weeks you pick a new thing, you add it, it adds value, and the project is playable with the new thing after every 2 weeks, then scope creep doesn't happen so much as we keep going as long as we have time, which is great. And then as soon as we don't, we're in a releasable state. If you find yourself writing a system for 3 weeks or a month or something, and the project is not working and it's breaking things by the act of doing it, that's your fault. That's nothing to do with the problem of scope creep. That's to do with you mismanaging your time and resources. So take smaller bites, increment them, and test it. And it'll always take longer than you think. So take a small feature, put it in, test it, make sure it works, integrate it with the other systems, and move on. Always take smaller chunks.
All right, let's take this one real quick. What do you think are the advantages and disadvantages of developing games to sell or as a service as an indie dev? So I was curious about this one, Jason, because I know you've done a lot of contract stuff. Have you done like game contracts where you built people's games for them as a service, or do you know anybody who does? I don't know if you got thoughts on this too, but I'm really curious.
I've not done it per se, but I have worked on projects that were games as a service and like added features to them. But I've never taken on the kind of doing that for somebody. I will say my one worry with that is something somebody else mentioned in the chat earlier, which is if your game is a service, it lives and dies by your audience, right? You're entirely dependent on people not just playing your game, but being interested in your game. It's something that you don't like to admit, but a large portion of your revenue as a game maker will be people buying your game who will literally never play it. I guarantee at least 20% of your sales are going to be people who buy it because it sounds cool and will go live in their Steam library and never be opened. And that's fine. Like from your perspective, that's money that you've got that's towards your project. If it's games as a service, you're not just competing with every game that was ever made. You're competing with every game that's currently live right now that they could be playing instead. And that is a much harder thing to commit against because they have to be live playing your game. They have to make your game the thing that they spend their time in actively. But if they buy it, you've already, succeeded at that, and then they can play it intermittently, and it's not going to affect your bottom line. So games as a service is a dangerous path to go on unless you already know it's good, and that's obviously very hard to do. So I usually caution people who do this, and I ask them to do a free demo project and like release it by going to a game jam, or a local colleges do this a lot, and just say, can I just like grab 20 students, put them in a room, give them a game, and say, can I do a play test session, and just see if it's fun, and like start to get some feedback early. Because if you lean all in and spend 2 years developing something and the original premise was wrong, that'll launch and you'll get like 20 users on the day it launches, and then it'll only get worse, and then you'll have wasted all that time and money. So
my own thoughts on this are kind of different leaning, not against what you said, but rather when you are thinking about a live service, it's not necessarily a game that always updates. It's a game that shows that it has an audience that wants to be serviced. There's a difference between making a game, releasing it, and then never bothering to update it, and a game that you keep updating because there are people who are interested in seeing a change. Even if you do both of them to sell, the one that gets updates will likely bring in new players as it gets more and more things. Now, generally speaking, as you said, live services are about keeping people engaged with your content. And to engage them, it means that you're going to have to keep pumping out new things, because players are like locusts and they'll eat up everything in your game. And then when they're done, they're going to fly off into their next meal. So in entirely positive respect, it's how it goes, right? Players flood into a game, figure out everything there is into it. They build a really nice looking wiki, and then they're moving on to another one. If you find people that are interested and they're actually spending time in your game, it means that there's something you can service them with more of the game. So once you see that you have an audience, service them, have fun. Other than that, making games to sell is pretty good, because if your game has already lost its interest, if you'll be updating it, unless you're really good at advertising, nobody's going to say, hey, look, that game updated, we should jump into it. You'll be updating into the void. So even if it's just games to sell, you're still choosing whether to service the community that joins after the game has been sold or not. Now, if your game is free and you have a service and transactions within it, good luck to you. But you really have to keep your players interested in keeping on looking, because something that everybody can access but nobody is talking about is going to die really quick.
All right, I wanted to share a couple quick things. First, everybody that wants to join in on the meetup, you should be able to in about 15 minutes. It's going to open up. So there's a link down below. You should be able to look at that link and then hop in, get set up, go create your character. You can probably create the character and all that stuff and get logged in advance. So if you want to join that, make sure that you do that beforehand. And I made, if I can drag this tab over, this goofy little mug to give away during the shows, or during the little meetup part. So there's a mug here. I just made it now, so I think it would be pretty cool. I really like these little metal mugs. They did a little contest giveaway section down here in the meetup. You can't see it yet, but it'll show up there in a bit, and you'll be able to run around, and first one to get to it can win a mug or win a rider license. We'll do both. We'll just do a mug and a rider key for the first person to get there. That works. I don't know. Or either that, or I'll put the mug somewhere else and put I think I'll put the rider key down there, and I'll just put the mug somewhere else. Maybe I'll do like 2 of them. But yeah, I wanted to just make sure everybody knew there was an opportunity to kind of jump in and win some stuff later on. So
by the way,
go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up that Frosty70 mentioned again that players are like locusts, quoting what I said. I'm being entirely respectful. I just want to bring it up. If your game is really popular, people are even going to dig through the code to find hidden features. And that can be really difficult to say. Yeah, that's not actually in the game, or yeah, that's actually implemented in the game, because sometimes even the developers aren't entirely fully up to date. When you're working in a team, there's a lot of misconceptions about what actually made it into release and what didn't. You can find a bunch of hidden stuff in every game that you're looking into.
I could spend an hour talking about all of the hidden models, characters, and things in just Zelda Ocarina of Time. People have dug that to hell. There's so much content that was in the project but never made it.
Yeah, and when people see stuff that's not being revealed within the actual live title, they'll demand service to see it eventually somewhere. If it's something that was unideal and was removed, people are going to be very fearful if it does make it into the release eventually. So they're going to dig into everything. So just be careful about what's actually in there and how you manage your community. Strong communication really helps.
On that note, just because it's funny, that my favorite one of those is in Ocarina of Time. There is a completely fully functional fighter from Star Fox 64 that you can spawn in that has been coded to work with enemy AI and will fly around and shoot you. Very clearly, it was used for debug testing at some point. It was never meant to make it into the game, but supposedly it did have a trigger to come out of a chest. So there may have been a point where it might have been a hidden debug thing, but for the most part, it's just a funny thing you can summon into the game.
Yeah, and there's also people who are going to judge you based on the files that you have on the game, not even like as part of the gameplay. For example, modders will tend to be resentful sometimes to titles that don't promote modding, especially if a previous title did, depending on how difficult it is to modify the code. That can be seen, for example, in Fallout, when Fallout 76 hit. And there was also a recent example, my time at Sandrock, I think it is. I just want to say that game development is really difficult, so huge props to anyone who's actually releasing a game. What your files end up in shouldn't be ignored. No, not ignored. Ignored is the wrong word for it. Should not be underestimated in importance.
You guys want to take one more question?
Sure.
So there's one about multiplayer or assembly definitions. Building multiplayer audiences or assembly definitions. Choose wisely.
Dealer's choice.
No, this is like Jeopardy. You have to choose one for $200.
Do I get the $200?
Only if you answer right in the right question.
Oh no. Well, I have a better assembly definitions answer, I guess.
All right. My project is just starting to get slow. I'm going to need to implement assembly definitions before too much longer. Does anyone have a video on converting an actual project to use them? Or sorry, I am a video on converting a project to them. Go ahead, Jason. You can answer as a question.
Well, if you're saying technically whether it's answered, then yes, somebody somewhere does have a video. So there we go. I've earned my money. But
you didn't answer it as a question, though. It has to be phrased as a question.
You caught me. Yeah.
Now you lost your $200.
True. I keep forgetting that's
Jeopardy, so now you have to pay the $200. It's negative.
Yeah. You caught me.
I just want to point out, though, that if your project gets slow as things change, it's not necessarily just your recompilation time. There's a lot of processes that happen as soon as the assembly finishes loading. For example, if you have any editor scripts, or if you have any validation methods, or if you have different content parsers, all of these are probably going to run as soon as you're done recompiling, and those can be a big source of slowdowns compared to just the recompilation time. So there is a way to profile the editor and see what's happening as you change things. Try to look into that first. Always profile before you decide what is the thing that's slowing you down.
Yeah, that's definitely some good advice. That was one thing that I think Johnny did a really good job of kind of getting across at the conference thing too, like profile stuff.
Yeah.
Or not, get Ruben and getting my speakers mixed up. Yeah, Ruben did a really good job of kind of getting that across. And I think it's important. People always try to optimize the wrong thing. I've talked about this before. I've seen people like waste months optimizing stuff without profiling it just to find out that there was something stupid in the UI code that was killing everything. And nobody looked at because nobody profiled it a long time ago before profilers were easy. But go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, if you do want a quick test of that idea for assembly definitions, there is one from GameDev Guide that has a video that's literally, I am going to take a project, I will put assembly definitions in, and I'll show you how it works. I forgot the exact name of the video, but I think it's literally called assembly definitions. That one will get you started. There's a lot more to assembly definitions, but if you want to go, I'm not using them, I would like to use them, that video will definitely give you what you need to begin using them. And I also have a video which includes assembly definitions too, so feel free to check out my channel.
Yeah, you should definitely be subscribed if you're not already subscribed. So somebody was saying they couldn't find the event link. It's right here. So this is to join right after the show. I actually be able to join in about 6 minutes. I'm going to drop the link in chat too for anybody that wants to join. Just make sure that you are signed up and registered so you can actually log in. It's only open to the first, I think it's 200 people that it's capped at. So make sure that you get in quickly if you're going to get in. Also, make sure that you hit thumbs up and subscribe before you do, though. Give you quicker access or something.
In fact, I'm going to go make a coffee before I jump into that. So I'm going to jump out now and leave you guys to it.
Okay. Well, I will see you in there in just a few minutes. Oh, disappeared him. I disappeared him too early on accident. Okay, there we go. So that window is up. These windows are up. And then let me get this link dragged over there. Give everybody a chance to jump in. So is there anything else you wanted to talk about real quick, Uri?
Somebody just asked, TFO Animations asked, how do you make a game look the same on all mobile screens? I'm making an Android game. So
is it possible to make it look the same on all screens?
That's the catch, isn't it? Different mobile screens have different resolutions and different ratios of how wide and how tall they are. So there's a lot of ways you can achieve the same look, but usually that would involve black bars and truncating what you're actually displaying. Not ideal. You can use a lot of tricks in order to get things to look roughly the same. For example, if you're just designing for a standard resolution, but then you're faced with a widescreen, you can zoom in so that you show more where you have to, so you don't have the black bars. If you have UI, you have to make sure that you have dead zones or safety zones on the corners, so that if there's a rounded display and you're putting something at the very edge, it doesn't actually get hidden by the lack of pixels in that rounded corner. Do you have any tips on that?
Nothing beyond what you've added, really. I always, like, every time I go to make a mobile game, I have to kind of re-look at all of the tips and advice just to make sure that I don't forget something, because it happens relatively rare when I'm doing it. And most of the time, 99% of the time, I just develop for 1080p or 4K. So like I'm either focused on one of those two resolutions because I'm on some sort of a desktop setup. But when I switch to mobile, I basically the same stuff that you said. And then I do a lot of like searching and kind of experimenting before I start building up the UI to make sure that everything is right before I put in all the components, because I've done it before where I built up this UI without thinking about it and then I have to go back and it's a giant nightmare. If you just think about the UI and the flexibility and check all the different aspect ratios and resolutions early on and be making sure that you're switching through those, you'll catch them way early and not have to deal with it and have it be a pain in the butt. At least that's been my general experience with it.
Yeah. Also, just remember the name of the package I was thinking about, but there is the device simulator package by Unity themselves. And that one lets you see your UI in all the different device resolutions. It comes with like presets for a bunch of devices. It lets you see the screen safe areas for each one of them and try to mess with touch input. It also has a feature for auto rotation. I think it had some other ones, but you really want to look into that one if you're making an Android game.
Yeah, I thought they moved that into the editor or something. Maybe I'm wrong. I was thinking that they had pulled that in with one of the newer versions, or maybe it was just a big update to it that I'm thinking of. That happened.
I'm not sure because I don't generally do device stuff. Yeah, it was updated last year, about 10 months ago last time. So It's still being roughly maintained, which is good.
Nice. All right, let me see. I'm just fixing something in here real quick. People should be able to start hopping into the the meetup in just a second. I'm just fixing something that somebody broke. I don't know who got in here and modified my map. Somebody broke it. I gotta fix it. Somebody was probably trying to be helpful. Save. Okay. Whew. All right. I just had to update that. Sorry. Watching stuff over here on the other screen. All right. So if you're still with us live and you're going to jump over to the meetup, now is pretty much the time. You can leave the window open here. I'll keep the stream going and keep talking through stuff while I get things set up and going. But if you want to join in on the meetup, now is the time. Let me get the link in here again. I've got it. Let me see if I can find it. Copy.
Somebody mentioned to use the UI builder regarding the UI. That's not something that the UI builder does for you. It doesn't make everything look the same. What it does is it lets you offer UI in a new, different way that should be more optimized, but also I myself am finding it less intuitive to work with. You can get the same end results with Unity UGUI and with UI builder. So just make note of that. It's not that you have to swap to one or the other.
Nice. I have quick heads up for anybody who's running around. Hold on, I'm gonna make this bigger real quick. For anybody who's running around trying to find coupon codes and prizes and stuff, there were still some here from the mixer or from the event, the conference. So if you see a coupon code there, that's probably already been redeemed. I wouldn't worry too much about it. We are going to do a quick giveaway though in just a few minutes once everything opens up. Maybe at like 5 minutes after the hour, like 11:05, we'll do one. So it is just now hit the 15 minutes before the event time, so everybody should be able to pop in. Amir was just saying that it's telling him he can only pop in 15 minutes before, and yep, now I can see the people coming in, and it's starting to fill up. So once it gets to 200, it will, I believe, just hard cap and not let anybody in if we get that high. I don't know, that'd be pretty much everybody in the stream. But if you guys wanted to come to a free meetup real quick and have an opportunity to go meet a bunch of people and win something, now's the chance. Also, if you wanted to enter the giveaway to win the rider license and the mug, let me find that little mug. Mug, where are you? I'll send you a mug too, Yorai. I'll send you a code.
I already have 2 mugs.
You don't have a GameDev show mug though.
True. I'm getting
you need a GameDev show mug, so I'll get you one of these too. So I put these up, and there'll be a code for one of these for the winner too. I actually made it so we can give it away for the winner, and because I want one. I actually love those things. I use those like as one of my main cups, especially for the kids. They're like perfect. They're super lightweight. You just can't microwave them. Obviously,
nice.
They're metal.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, sure.
Yeah, but they're definitely nice little mugs. All right, so it looks like a lot of people are jumping in. We're at 73 now. Just let it keep going and going and going. See how many people hop in here. I wish I could get rid of this stupid chat though. It keeps popping back up, and I don't know what it is. I'm sure it's something that I'm doing. Amir's in here.
I don't think that's been a problem for me, but
Oliver's got a code for a voice pack we can give away too, so we'll do that. He's actually got a stand-up here. I can show everybody. So if you haven't looked around, I'll give everybody a real quick introduction to this system that's watching. So here, let me go through everybody. There. Oh, this green area, by the way, is Jason Story's corner. I made him some thrones. Oh, Yorai and Story are sitting right next to each other on the thrones. And there's a bunch of links here. If you go click on anything, you can find his coffee page and go subscribe, get in the Discord. It's a very active Discord. All right, up here is the Paladin pack. You can actually open it up, and you can actually see Oliver right there. So he's got a code to give away. You can check it out and meet Oliver. He's over here. That's cool. This is one of the things I like about it. It's like everybody can have these little sections. They're just hanging out. And here you can see these were all the sponsors from the event. So from the GameDev Guild, Serenix with Odin and Unity and Backtrace, Stream and Game Driver. The 5 sponsors. And then we had these different tables for topics. So there's a C# table. There was a surprisingly mostly dead jobs table over here. Maybe it's because I chose a money bag for the icon. Maybe I should put jobs or something else. I don't know. The money bag apparently didn't attract people. And then down in
people don't like sitting in corners usually, so they congregate towards the areas in the middle of the room more.
That's true. That's probably the issue. It's just the location. Because this Tetris room, nobody went in there at all. It's literally like a Tetris tournament. Here, I'll run in there real quick. It's a Tetris tournament where people can play Battle Tetris. It's a ton of people. I just put it in here to see if anybody would use it and then go up to the end. Nobody actually touched it. Let's see if we can get out of here and then go back over to the other spots. So let's see. Why is that allowed me in? Huh. Oh, whatever. Run over here.
Got played or trying to figure out who has the best trend to talk about.
Yeah, right now everybody's just going to kind of run around and find people to talk about. Hey, there's Richard. The Chatterware booth over here was actually really popular too. I have this Gather tab totally muted, by the way, so if anybody talks to me, it won't play over the stream. Just in case, you never know, somebody random run and say something inappropriate, or it would just also double my audio too and be terrible. But this booth was super popular. They were talking about voiceovers and stuff and animation for that for a long time. And there's a little treasure area there. Oh, and then the racetrack. Here, I'll run up to the racetrack, show everybody the track. So you can, if you get bored, which I don't know how you could, but if you get bored, you can run up to the track, go watch people race, or run over and grab your own cart. Oh no, there's no carts. Where are all the carts? Somebody stole all the carts. I'm gonna go back and get a cart from outside. Let's see.
Oh well.
There were a bunch of race carts, go-karts out there. I think the problem is that they ended up stuck on these things. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. Go into hand edit mode, and I'll take those go-karts and I'll just drag them off. All these stuck ones. I'm gonna load it up. So there's a bunch of go-karts here, and they're no longer stuck on these interactables. The problem is it gets with you drop those off in the interactable layer, and it gets weird. Like the other thing is interacting instead and stealing it. That's a game design thing, right?
Yeah, I mean prioritization of what you should actually interact with.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Now the go-karts are out. Everybody can see them. Let's see. Oh, whoops, wrong tab. Where am I at?
The go-karts are invading the entire chat room.
The what?
They're invading the entire gathering.
Oh. Okay, let's see. I get the messages back here. I got YouTube chat back up now, so I can see it too. Okay, now if we go, I will learn how to click the right tab. There we go. Get my go-kart. Got it. Okay, then I go up.
Okay.
Go for a drive. Whoosh. There we go. Then you can go around the track and go super speed. All right, who's racing me? Z. Mini Melon. It is not easy to get around this thing. Trying to make it. No, you get stuck. The problem is like the lag and the inputs and stuff. It actually makes it somewhat difficult. It's kind of challenging. If there was no lag, it would be not so hard. But
yeah, understandable.
Oh yeah, these were the codes. So these, by the way, if you see one of these, don't get too excited. These were from before. These were the codes from the old mugs on the notes. So I will probably delete those, and we'll do something else for these mugs. I actually have a spot where I'm going to do the giveaway in just a few minutes. I'm just going to wait until everybody, wait until right at 11. Then I'll do a big broadcast inside Gather to make sure that everybody's watching and sees, and we'll do the giveaway there.
Okay.
Let everybody do that.
Jump over for like 5 minutes and then come back to the Gather?
If you want, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So see you soon, everybody.
All right. See you there in just a second. I'm just going to run around in circles and watch everybody for a minute while people join in.
All right. See ya.
All right. All right, everybody. Let me see. Oh, yes. We needed GameDev Guild t-shirts. Yes, I actually got one. I ordered one. We should have made those available. Joe set it up and they were really cool. So I grabbed one and definitely think it would have been cool to have more. Let's get me down in the corner there. And I'm going to see. I really wish I could just get rid of this chat window, get it to stop popping up. I don't know how, though. There must be some way to do it. Oh, look at that. Hold on. I'm going to pop in Salim. What's up, Salim?
What's up? You hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you. And something. Just getting ready. Jason and Yorai just jumped over to gather a second ago, or they were starting to. I think Yorai is going to be in there in a minute. And there's a bunch of people in here hanging out now. It looks like we're at 91 right now in there. So about half the people that are in the YouTube stream are also running around just chatting, or it might be a slightly different subset, running around chatting, having conversation. So if you haven't used this thing before, by the way, you can actually see everybody's video, talk to people, anybody that you run up next to, you can kind of chat with, have interactions with, and talk about anything. You can share screen, you can run up. There's a bunch of little games. Let me run down here real quick. There's, Tonics at the booth representing. So there's a couple asset vendors actually hanging out here. Cool. There's a poker table. It looks like trying to set up a poker game here. There's something bugging me, making me run upwards. I don't know what that was. My key got stuck. And then little areas where you can have conversations. Oh, it looks like somebody's at a Tetris table here. So if you want to jump in and just play games, talk to people, or just go meet some of the asset vendors, talk to people or whatever, I guess now's a chance. So what's up, Salim?
What's going on?
Just that. Just people jumping in and saying, hey, Salim. Just hanging out. We're gonna just running around. I'm waiting until probably about 11. I figured to keep the stream up and running until 11, and then do the giveaway and stuff. And then everybody's just kind of hanging out, chatting about game stuff. I was talking earlier though about how we were having a discussion about level design.
Yeah.
And just how important it was and how specialized of a skill it was. So I don't know if you were able to talk Lenny into coming on sometime. I figured I would check.
It's hard with him. He doesn't like doing this type of stuff generally. But I'm working on him. He doesn't really have anything else he's doing. He always wants to play games, so he's definitely got time to do something.
Yeah, I think it would be cool. Lenny is, like I told everybody before, one of the best level designers I know. So
yeah,
I think it would be interesting just getting his insight. They're just running around in circles, kind of looking, seeing all the people here. And maybe people pop up with cameras and mics.
Yeah.
I think there's a big discussion in Stories Corner.
There's always a discussion in Stories Corner.
I know. That's why I branded this one for him. I redid the whole thing, put a little brain in a jar and all and stuff. Like, thought it was the perfect fit. All right, let's see.
He's not even there. He's over to the right.
Where is he?
Right there. He's over. See him all the way to the right. In what is that? Chat.
Oh yeah, he's over the chatterbox booth. I'm actually going to expand out his area a little bit real quick because it's good, but I feel like it needs to be a tiny bit bigger. So I don't. Maybe that's a bad idea. You know what? I'm going to ask him. Jason, should I expand out the chat area there and make it even more tiles, or is it big enough? I'm going to make it bigger and then just assume that he said make it bigger.
Wait, how are you talking to him?
I don't know. I was just hoping he could see the stream. He probably can't. Realistically, I'm just talking to myself. So I'm going to drag this over. Somebody might be watching both though and telling him. I'm just going to give it a couple more tiles because I can see like people are crowded on it and like they want to get in there. May as well make it possible. There we go. Let's remove that tile and save. Okay. Now people might accidentally be in the conversation that didn't want to. They just wanted to lurk on the outside, but now they're going to get pushed in.
But wait,
cool.
I thought you were So is everybody just in here now?
Everybody is in gather. Well, I mean, we're still live on YouTube, and I'm just screen sharing, and you're up. You're in the little window live screen sharing. But yeah, they're all talking in gather chatting, I think. I just wanted to keep our stream up and live so that people can join in, figure out how to get in there, and actually get into the conversation instead of not knowing how and seeing that the stream ended and thinking that they couldn't, because you've got basically an hour. I've left it to be open for 2 hours, but plan on basically the next hour of just hanging out, chatting with people, and talking. In about 2 minutes, I'm going to go live in there and broadcast and do a real quick giveaway. I just need to actually finish setting that up real quick. Give me 1 second. Let's see. I gotta move this window off of here. Drag it over. Oh, you guys can't see anything, so I'll switch to this. We'll just go to desktop mode for a couple seconds, and Salim's head will pop off the top. That's what you wanted, right, Salim? Your head kind of popping off the top of the map.
Are you commenting on my camera placement? Is that?
Huh?
Are you happy now? Does that make you feel better? Does that make
it does?
Okay.
That is much better. Okay, now I've got to fix this up.
Wait, where's the gather link? How have I lost this?
It's in chat. So if you don't have it, here, let me. I'll drop it in the invite link. I'll drop it in the private chat. I'm gonna drop it in the YouTube chat and the Twitch chat as well for anybody who's still hasn't found it. And then I'm going to go fix up something that I broke. Why is that not working? That is so weird. That is a big issue. Save. Let me refresh. Running into a problem here. My amazing map broke. A small problem. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to jump back over. We'll drag this window back over here, and then F11 it, and then pop it back on the stream so everybody can see the meetup going on. And if you want to join it, the link is just down below in the chat. Just grab it and hop in. It's open right now. You don't have to do anything other than click on it. So that's pretty simple.
Wait,
I think.
I guess I can see why collision is necessary, but with this many people, having to go through everything is kind of annoying.
Yes, it definitely can be frustrating, I would say. The rooms, it just kind of gets really packed, though. So.
Yeah, I just don't see why the collision is necessary, at least the person-to-person collision.
All right, let's see. I gotta finish fixing this up. That's gonna go to. I'll go down here. Let's say.
I see you're right. Talking.
There goes there.
Where's Dave at?
What are you looking for?
Dave.
I don't know. Is he in here?
Is he?
Let's see. Restream. Oh, Yorai is in here. Okay, Yorai is back. Hey, Yorai.
Hi. How you doing?
Welcome back.
Hi, Salim.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Doing well. So there's been some echo as we're talking on the stream here. People are having difficulty to hear on the actual lobby because they are all echoing what is being said on stream.
Oh, because they're all playing the same thing?
Supposedly. I'm not sure exactly what's going on.
They probably all have the stream open playing the same thing. All right, I'm going to kill the stream in just a minute. I just need to move this one object. And I think I can kick off. Let me see how that goes. Bam. I just need to fix like 2 more things. Let me see. That should do it. Let me double check that worked. If that worked, then I can kill the. At least I can kill my audio on the stream and just chat in here once we get going. Let's see. So locked out now. That looks right. And this spot is locked out now. Maze has been updated. Okay, so now I'm going to quickly broadcast. We'll talk on YouTube and everywhere else about how this thing works, and let everybody jump into the giveaway and win stuff. So if you're in YouTube right now and you're in Gather, go ahead and just close YouTube or thumbs up YouTube, subscribe, and then feel free to close the stream. After that, jump over to the stream, and you're going to hear me in there. I just don't want you to hear me twice, and I don't want you to be playing me twice. So I'm going to hit the button in here. We're going to spotlight and really quickly talk about the giveaway and everything else. And welcome everybody. All right. I think I am broadcasting now in Gather as well. So I hit the self spotlight for everybody who's watching on the YouTube stream, talking to everybody in there too. You should now see me and see how are people getting through that door? Apparently everybody can still just get through. Oh, I'm an idiot. It's because I literally put a door there, and that's what doors do. Oh yeah, I forgot. Doors like
Game
break.
design.
Yeah. I know what it is. Okay.
Who put the door there?
It was me, and I forgot that doors make it so you can walk past impassable tiles if you open them. Okay. Oh, I'm muted in Gather. There we go. Let's unmute. Okay. There we go. Now I'm live and broadcasting in Gather and everywhere else. All right. We're just about to kick off the meetup and the giveaway. I'm going to do the giveaway first so everybody can go chat and stuff afterwards and not have to worry about getting distracted and kind of running away for a giveaway or something. So I'm going to quickly go into photo mode. Let me see if I can do that. Pop this up so that everybody can maybe see. Let's see, photo settings, zoom out, zoom out. Down below me, there's a little islandy area. You can probably see that. It's not accessible anymore. It was a minute ago. There used to be a bunch of portals there. That has all changed. Your goal is just to get to that treasure chest. The first one to the treasure chest will be able to redeem the code. And the code that I'm going to put in there is going to be for...
Oh, this is gonna be crazy.
Well,
Oh my God.
It's going to be for a JetBrains Rider key and the mug. So to get it, though, whoever finds the code first gets the code out of the treasure chest and redeems the mug. I'll also just email you the Rider code afterwards. So you have to get in there and redeem the mug to do it. Before you do that, though, you're going to need the link. So I'll make sure that I'm going to drop the link in chat here. So let's go find it. Go find the mug link so that you can get it kind of in cart ready to put in the code. So if you find it, you get there first. You're not like sad that, oh, I got to it, but then somebody else redeemed it because I didn't have the page open or I didn't have another browser tab. So
can you just ghost through each other on here? Because you like have collision.
Yes, you can ghost through each other on here and stack up in here. Yeah, without a doubt. Okay, so I'm going to send this to the room. Here's the link. That'll get everybody the mug in your cart if you want to add it. Obviously, don't just go buy it, but if you want to add it to the cart, get ready to put in the code. Now's your chance to do that, and then I'll hit the button. We will open everything up in just a second, and then you'll be able to run in there and then just get ready to be bouncing all around. All right, I'm going to go to my tile editor one more time. I just have to remove the impassable parts and hit save, and then you guys will all be able to run in there and go, somebody go win a prize. Should be fun. Let's see how this goes. Okay, erase, and see, eraser, erase, and save. All right, it should open up any second now. So just watch for being able to run down there. And the second you can, go try to get that mug code. All right, I'm gonna stop broadcasting.
3, 2, 1, go.
There they go. Everybody's off.
Zoom back so I can watch.
I'm going back to photo mode to zoom out. Yeah. And I can watch everybody trying to run around, trying to figure out the way through the maze. There's a bunch of portals there. So if you're watching, if you haven't seen this before, there's a bunch of like secret trap portals that port you away. There's only one way through the whole maze, but you have to figure out where the secret traps are, because they teleport you like anywhere to a different spot in the room. So you could be like out at the beach, up in the other room. Most of them are relatively close, so it's not too far. But a couple of them teleport you like to another room. Mostly because I clicked the wrong room when I was setting up the system for it, but it works. Nice. It's fun just watching everybody running around trying to get there. As soon as somebody gets to the chest, they will get the prize. They get a rider code and the mug. There they go. I wish I could get down there without people seeing.
Same thing. Yeah.
So they that way I could be like kind of zoomed in a little bit more and they couldn't see. Here, let me move our heads on restream, and we can see it better. There we go. That's a better view. I like that. I'll watch everybody run by. Everybody that walks past me sees my video twice too and sees the chat. We're off to the races. Who's gonna make it? Dun dun dun. I have like the cheat sheet on my other screen over here to the left. Let me see. Let me make sure it is beatable, right?
Hopefully, you set it up.
So far, though, the whole like right side, they're just. She just take the path of that's the longest. Maybe that'll be the clue.
The real trick is to become an administrator and then trying to see how it actually looks. All you web devs can try to figure out the collisions.
Can you ghost over a portal by chance? No. Looks like you can't.
Well, I'm hop back into the stream, so sorry, into the gather. So see ya there.
All right. We will see you soon.
Yes, soon, DM. Bye.
Uh-oh. Wait a second. Oh, yeah. That's...
I don't know.
What's up? So I was just watching everybody in here.
Like, legitimately, no one's gotten past a certain spot.
Oh, it looks like a couple of people got in.
Oh, there we go.
It's like this last second carefulness getting up there.
I think I didn't think you could run on the water.
I know. Nobody does. Also, I set up secret walls that you could walk through too.
Yeah, this is
Not out here, but in other spots, there's some secret walls.
some old school.
All right. Well, I assume somebody has got. It looks like a couple people have gotten in there.
Ryan Skinner looks like he's at it now. Dragoons has gotten there. It looked like Ryan Skinner was up there first.
Oh, we'll see whoever claimed it first. And so I set it up so then just go in and redeem it. All right, let's download that screenshot. Just take a big picture, save that off, and close it. All right. Nice. Well, congratulations. Oh, whoops, I just popped away. I don't know if you saw that.
So did it confirm if someone opened it or what?
I'm sure somebody did. I didn't see the let me go check and see if somebody redeemed the coupon. I assume the coupon is going to say 0 uses left. Oh no, it says error establishing a connection to the database. Nice. So apparently the whole web page blew up instead.
It doesn't trigger something to let you know that the chest was actually open. No, it just had a code in it, but now my whole website broke. What the hell?
Oh, well, you got like this, right? Error establishing database connection. All right. Well, I don't know what's going on there. I guess we'll just reboot it. Hopefully you can use that code and it wasn't just a hug of death there. It killed the whole thing. Let's 2FAN and reboot it. Oops. All right. Hopefully everybody's enjoying their chats at least. Let's see.
A minute after start, really?
What's that?
He says someone beat it a minute after it started.
Oh no, I did the whole map. It was changed. It was changed when the maze started.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, let's see. Game courses. I'm just gonna restart this box. Power. And it is totally dead. And let's triple check that it's still dead. Yep, we will power cycle it. Figure out what's going on there. Terrible, terrible timing on blowing things up, huh?
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I had it planned the whole time.
You're supposed to blow it up later, Salim. Jeez.
Suspense, man.
All right, well, let's servers restart. All right, I should probably close off that giveaway area. Let people go back to just chatting and stuff because there's nothing left to win. Somebody's got the code.
Are you sure?
Am I sure? No, because my webpage broke, but let me see, it's loading. I'm just going to get it ready to close off. Some tiles.
Have you announced? Well, I guess you haven't confirmed it, but for let people know that because people are still trying to get there. You might just be having fun.
Oh yeah, I should probably broadcast in there. Fun. Hey everyone, I'm pretty sure somebody's got that code, but I think my website totally blew up. So I'm rebooting it, and I don't know if anybody's redeemed it yet, but I'm going to close it off as soon as I verify somebody redeemed it, and then I'm going to shut up so you guys can get back to talking. Okay, so I found it. Let me look. It rebooted. Everything's fine. Let's go to coupons. And then we'll go to the section where I can see the coupons. Oh, I didn't load. Come on, load. Once it loads, then I'll know for sure if it worked. And then I can just, I guess, you know what? I'll just put in the link to the mug for everybody who wants to go grab one. Just me, probably. Oh, no, nobody's used it yet.
I'm telling you. All those people are standing there. Something's going on. Broadcast the site.
I lied. Nobody's used the mug code yet, and the site's back up. So if you got it, give it a try. Hopefully it works. Maybe it just doesn't work. I'm going to keep refreshing until somebody uses it, though. Watch the whole page just blow up because there's too many people trying to use the code. That's probably the issue. Is there's too many people trying to use the code, and the whole thing's falling apart. It's yeah. Error establishing database connection.
Oh man.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
well,
could you set it up so the chest will just get the user information and just send them the code when they click it, and then close
there's probably a way to do that, and I bet if I jump in and ask Jim, he could explain it, but I don't know how. Rubik's asked if you can rejoin the room after leaving. Yes, you definitely can. You can rejoin it. Yeah, apparently the traffic there is just too much from and it can't be that much traffic. I don't know why it's blowing up. I mean, it's normally not an issue. Let me look at the traffic graphs. Let's see. No, CPU usage is spiking, but still not that high. 50%. Disk IO is going up. It's not crazy though. None of the stats look nuts. So I don't know why it's killing the server.
You have created uncontrolled chaos.
It seems so. Everybody run around and keep crashing my website. This didn't happen during the conference when I had people redeeming codes. So
Yeah, but is it the same? Was it a similar situation as this? Like a bunch of people racing and first person enter.
yeah, yeah, the same kind of thing. Or like 4 codes per mugs.
How hard was the?
It's over on the right if you want to go check. Oh, here, I'll open it up. Here, let me go find it. I'll go find the hallway here. Eraser on the tile effect. All right, follow me, Slam. Are you in? You in here? Can you hit follow on me?
Where the hell are you? Oh wait.
If you find my name, there you are. All right, so yeah, follow me over here.
Yeah.
There's a secret maze right here. You get to the portal. This is the one here. This one's.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, this one's a lot harder. If anybody wants to try to get to the end of the portal, there's a secret room there. There's none of the prizes in there have already been grabbed, but I'll probably put prizes over this one.
You probably had less a chunk of people get to the end. Yeah.
On this one, probably, yeah. It was a pretty long, complicated one.
That first teleport is freaking hella far away.
And these ones, like half of them were to other rooms because I realized halfway through making it that I could teleport to the same room. So I kept sending them to other rooms, not realizing I could teleport to the same one. And then I realized that I was like, okay, I'm going to be nice on these now that I know I can do that. But I had no clue at first.
Oh my god.
Oh, looks like there's a big chat going on at the chatterware section. I'm going to turn off my mic in here so I don't start talking over people since I'm muted. No, this area was always popular.
I love that.
All right, checking the
Rise
coupon, see
and
if I got.
stories
Oh,
area.
the coupon was redeemed. Okay,
Oh sweet.
so it was.
Who got it?
I'm gonna look. Let's see.
Actually, does it tell you their display name, their gather name?
No, but it'll tell me like their first name. I think, assuming that they put that on their shipping info to get it. It looks like it went to Arnold's. I think that's the one that looks like it actually completed or is processing to Arnold's. So congratulations. I'm going to pop up that order and I will also email you over the JetBrains rider key. Yep, that's the ones. They got the mug with the code. Congratulations. All right. Yeah, I'll send you over the rider code too. I've got your window up here, so I'll send that in just a minute. Actually,
What is this? What is?
Close up now.
What's this here?
What are you looking at? Sorry, I lost you.
I want
Let me find you in here. So if you want to find somebody, you can hit the little thing on the right and then type them in, Salim. And I can just hit follow and go right to you.
What's why are these treasure chests here?
Oh, you have to get in there. There's a secret way to get into that room.
And then what? What do I get?
Into the room.
No, do I get like a
Then you can join the conversation when the outside gets too full.
What?
That's all. I mean, you get awesome, amazing things in there. It's really good, and you want to get in there.
Well, I want dragoons to get out of the way.
All right, I muted myself again.
The heck? Tells me I've entered a private space. I don't know what's in here.
Oh.
So how many people are in now?
Are you 95?
Nice.
About 100 in YouTube and about 100 in the stream.
This is cool.
Michael's asking how long it's open for. It'll run until noon, and then it'll stay open for like another hour after that. So I expect people to probably hang around for the next 40 minutes and then leave soon after.
Why are you following me?
Let's see. What's that?
Stop stalking me.
If the code you got doesn't work, it was probably already claimed. Is that or typoed it? But my guess is it was already claimed.
Well, yeah, didn't you confirm that the code was claimed?
Yeah, it was. I was sending the guy an email now with the code, with his writer code too. Oh, let's see, control. Oh, whoops. Copied the wrong thing there onto my clipboard. I'll copy that. We'll paste it in and we'll rename this writer code. And attach it.
Wait.
And send. All right. Congrats on your writer code. Just sent it over. Is he in here too? I don't know if he has a different. He might have a different name in here.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if it sends his. I'm not sure, Michael. What do you mean flip? Oh, I don't know. Actually, that's weird.
What?
I was asking if it like if you can, I'd have it like give the name, the display name, their gather name, so you can like congratulate them proper when you do this stuff.
Oh.
But he says my video is flipped in if you look at the video.
Oh, you're inversed. Yeah, that's funny. One of them's flipping you, one's not.
Let me see. Is that a setting in there? No.
So okay, that's up. Web page is back online. Awesome. Hey, Tim, what's up? I can see you there, but I can't. I know you can't hear me.
What? Who? What?
It's like the gather master.
Who?
I got my gather window muted still, so I can't hear. But I think I might actually kill the stream in a few minutes and just hop over to gather. So I guess yeah. Why don't I just do that? I think what we'll do is just kind of jump over. Let's everybody, if you're still in the stream right now, just hit subscribe, hit thumbs up, and leave a comment, and then jump over to gather. The link is down below. It looks like there's still plenty of room for everybody to jump in there, and then we'll see you all there. Slim, did you want to say any last second words before we just jump over there?
Just everyone thumbs up, subscribe, or Jason won't be able to like entertain me.
Yeah, I'll be sad and I will cry. So jump in, and we'll see you all there in just a second. I'm going to end the stream now. All right. Goodbye, everybody. See you next week or in a few minutes if you hit the button and come join us.